Langham Logistics has grown over 3 decades in the shipping and warehousing space. Our main goal is to get your products through the warehouse and transported around the country when you need them.
Cathy Langham, an Indiana entrepreneur who spent 30 years carving a niche in the traditionally male-dominated world of logistics. Her business success story has a lot of twists and turns, from co-founding Langham Logistics with her brother and sister to the President of the United States walking through her warehouse to emerging as a major player in the pharmaceutical supply chain. Motown, Detroit-born, Indiana-bred Cathy Langham, the leader of Langham Logistics, a major Hoosier business player in moving goods across the United States and around the globe. She's my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. Hello and welcome to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. I'm Gary Dick. Cathy Langham has a knack for organizing, storing, and moving products. Born in Detroit, her family moved to Indy when Cathy was in 8th grade. Her dad took a job at Allison Transmission. And well, as they say, the rest is history. Cathy graduated from the IU Kelley School of Business, and just 3 years after that, opened 2 franchises for trucking and air freight. Fast forward to today, more than 30 years later, and Cathy Langham is still making her mark on Hoosier business. And I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by the President and CEO of Langham Logistics, Cathy Langham. And Cathy, always great to catch up with you. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Gary, it's great to be here. Great to see you.
Well, Langham is, to me, just synonymous with the distribution and logistics sector, a gold standard really in the sector. And you guys have been around for a while, but it seems like as an observer, you're really on a roll. I mean, I see really big facilities popping up around central Indiana. Give us a thumbnail description of Langham Logistics today and kind of what's going on.
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. So Langham's been around a while. Now, my husband always says, say 25 plus years, or you sound too old, but it's closer to 35 years.
Wow.
We've been around a long time. And we're popping up buildings all over the place. So the last 4 years, I would say, we have taken a deeper dive into the temp controlled warehousing space. So even though a lot of our business is transportation, once you start putting up more buildings, everyone sees it. Before we fill our buildings, I call them my big marketing pieces because they're
right
out there. Everyone says something. But we've got about 1.5 million square feet of warehouses around the country. Mm-hmm. We do business with 7 of the top 20 life science companies out of those buildings. And we're continuing to expand. So we're in California, Arizona, Indiana, going into Pennsylvania in Q1 of next year.
Wow.
So it is a deeper, although the company's always been involved in all modes of transportation. So shipments going from anywhere to anywhere in the world, we're either handling those on our fleet or using trusted partners. And then warehouses and the temp-controlled warehouses are really specific to pharma, med device, and biotech. And they're companies that really need high service, high security, and very expensive controlled space.
Yeah, you mentioned the life sciences space. Is that a niche, would you say, for Langham? Obviously an important part of your business.
It's an important part of the business. We still do business in the automotive and industrial products and food, but this is an important niche. And although we started building our buildings before COVID really accelerated the interest. COVID, along with the geopolitical environment and wars and choke points in the supply chain and strikes, really for a lot of companies to reshore manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And they spend CapEx dollars, on manufacturing, but they don't want to spend CapEx on warehousing, raw materials, and distribution afterwards.
So the pandemic certainly affected all industries. So I think what I'm hearing you say is, in a sense, you had some positive impact from the pandemic.
Yeah, we were part of the PPE reagent test kit vaccine distributions around the state of Indiana. We bought some ultra low temp freezers to put in the more rural areas where there were hospitals and labs to house the Pfizer vaccine. So we were all in and really understanding what we needed as Hoosiers and jumping in to do what we could to help. And then since then, the whole idea of reshoring, and Gary, I would say, the last couple of years, companies, the ones that have won are companies that have kept these big relationships through the pandemic. Really, they kept them through sustained relationships, not really improved performance.
Yeah.
And now that's changing. So that's sort of the next iteration for businesses.
So that's interesting. So it was really, you put a premium on those. You always do, obviously, as a business, on relationships. But during those tough times, really important to fortify those relationships.
Right. And now I think we've gotten through that. Rates went through the roof, ocean rates, trucking rates. And then they went back down, and now they're really closer to 2019 rates, maybe a little above that. But now, and we have spent the last couple of years investing heavily in technology and automation. But I think 24 and 25 will be the years of efficiency and yield. And now all these companies were through the pandemic. Now they're looking at how do we pay for the pandemic? How do we get our arms around getting more efficient? And how do we have inventory certainty? Yeah. I mean, inventory was nuts. We bought too much. We didn't buy enough. We Americans, and now we're trying to get our arms around what is the right amount of inventory and how do we get full visibility to it? So that's, I think those are going to be the 24, 25 initiatives that our customers will be looking for.
You mentioned technology and innovation. I think some people, when you talk about distribution and logistics, they think the big warehouses and forklifts and, some pretty basic kinds of things. But I know that distribution and logistics sector is very much a high-tech industry. Talk about how technology has transformed maybe logistics since you started a number of years ago.
Oh, wow. Well, we are using drones to do cycle counts in our inventory. And a lot of this is birthed out of some of the shortages that we've seen around labor, and it's tough to find people. But we have bots cleaning our warehouses. We have some automation around conveyance, but being a third-party logistics company, a lot of our buildings are not dedicated, so we need to buy and onboard technologies that we can use across several customers. And those are, labor management systems. They are the drones. They are the bots. They are automated put away material handling equipment. So a lot of that stuff allows us to use our team for the best and highest use of their skill set.
Cathy, as you look at technology and innovation, I mean, things like artificial intelligence, is that creeping into to your space?
Oh, absolutely. It is allowing us, I talked about 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26, everyone, it's all about velocity and anticipating, and there are a lot of, knowledge workers will retire through retirement and attrition. And it just seems logistics and supply chain experts are not out there like they used to be. And so it's more incumbent upon us to be able to predict the future for our clients. That's our responsibility. And we use a lot of AI tools to do that, really a lot of predictive analytics, as well as, looking at heat maps and looking at the business today.
How do you deal with workforce? It's an issue that affects most industries. How do you find yourself, your ability to attract and retain talent? How do you meet those demands?
It's been, it's been a roller coaster. And I think it is for a lot of companies. During the pandemic, it seemed like everyone was willing to pay anything to steal workers from each other. And I'm thinking knowledge workers at this point.
Yeah.
And so everyone was overpaid, and everyone, went somewhere else. And then as we reset, many companies realized they didn't need that experience, and they didn't need to pay that much for those folks. So then a lot of people were looking for that next job. So we are always looking for the best people. We don't want to just fill roles. And another reason, for technology and automation, those, low experience roles, we can hopefully outsource to technology.
Yeah.
We are always looking at colleges, continuing to interview, to hire interns, to anyone I see that does a good job. I don't care if it's someone in a restaurant. If they have great customer service skills, I want to talk to them because, for us, it's about, we can teach the business at some level, but it is about passion and teamwork and listening skills and customer service and all that sort of thing.
Is it an advantage for you? I assume it would be, as a logistics company, to be located in a state like Indiana, just geographically. I would assume that's a plus. But as you think about the focus on the logistics sector, you think about location here, the business climate. How would you rate the ability to grow a business in Indiana?
Indiana is such a pro-business state, and it has been fantastic. Whether it's Crossroads of America, more interstate highways than anyone in the country, 7,000 miles of rail, 4 freshwater ports. I mean, there is no other state like us when it comes to that sort of logistics. Of course, FedEx, and we continue to grow. And then the people here, we always talk about it, and it's true. Hoosiers are different. Midwesterners are different. They do have a different work ethic, and they are a lot more inclusive than a lot of states, and they're more welcoming, in my opinion, to new ideas and new people coming in, and that's all huge for companies like mine to grow.
Thanks. A lot of momentum, a lot of good things going on at Langham Logistics now, but let's do a big rewind back to the very beginning. How did it all start? What do you remember about those earliest days?
Oh gosh. Well, I graduated from Kelly with a marketing major and a merchandising minor. And I interviewed through the business placement office to get into retail buying. And the more I interviewed in that, the less I thought I wanted to work nights and weekends buying, placemats and stuff like that. Although I've been working nights and weekends ever since. But I expanded my net, expanded my search through Kelly, and ultimately took a job with a trucking company, a less than truckload common carrier, thinking I'll just do this till I figure out what I really want to do.
What attracted you? What attracted you to the trucking company?
They had a great training program. They actually paid well for a kid right out of college, which I'm embarrassed to tell you what that number was now, but I thought it was a lot at the time. And it kept me in Indiana. I always wanted to be in Indiana and stay in Indiana. And it just seemed interesting to me. And that was way back in the days of, and even now, the bigger companies gobbling the smaller companies. And went through 3 acquisitions in the 3 years I was there.
Wow.
And I'm a grinder, Gary. I can outwork anybody. And I was back then too. So I was, then I found out after all these acquisitions and a large sales team, and I was in sales, that I was the top producer and the lowest paid and the only woman.
Yeah.
So that gave me some good incentive and really an anomaly in the industry as a woman.
Yeah.
and had lots of offers. So I ultimately went to another company who wanted to try a new concept in local terminal management franchising. So I was 25, single, nothing to lose. I opened their first franchise. A year later, I opened an air freight forwarding franchise. And then a couple of years after that, sold both of them and opened this company. So that's how it all began.
What are your memories of starting a company? That's always an exciting, exhilarating, crazy, frustrating. I mean, you can use all the words you want. What was it like for you to start Langham Logistics?
It was exciting and scary. And, when I look back now, I don't know if I would have done it if it was happening today. But what I remember most is how people help you. Yeah, I was looking for a truck dock on West Street, south of downtown, in arguably the very difficult neighborhood.
Right.
And I was hiring 3 owner operators and a person to work in the office, and a guy named Jerry Carter, who's been gone many years. I sat down with him and I was scared to death because he was big and he had a beard and he was a trucker, and asked him if I could rent some dock space from him. And he gave me 5 dock doors, built an office for me, and charged me $300 a month.
Wow.
I mean, so it's like people like that who just go to bat for you and believe in you. And, those are my fondest memories of starting this business is, the interaction with people, and whether it's customers or employees or landlords, that they go to bat for you and care about what's going on.
Yeah. And you mentioned it earlier, but you are in, and certainly when you started, you were in a very male-dominated industry. What was that like for you? What were the challenges that you faced? I'm sure you just mentioned one there that turned out very well, but what was it like trying to grow a company as a female in the logistics industry?
Yeah, all the stories and things that you think might have happened did happen as far as anything around chauvinism and all those things. But it really all comes down to work hard, solve problems for customers, and be fair with people, and things will happen. So I would say, getting in front of customers as a woman was easier that first time. But believe me, that you wouldn't get the second time unless you had something to say and could really benefit them and find some value.
Yeah.
So it was hard, but it wasn't terrible. Certainly I persisted and went on. So I've got to say, for any young women out there, just keep going, keep eyes on the prize, and just keep moving through things.
Yeah. You mentioned women out there. Now, any lessons learned as you think back on those early days, and lessons learned, anything you do differently today than back then?
Well, I've always had this. And in fact, I told my son, who's 24, who just, started a job in Washington, D.C. a while ago, whatever your job is, just outwork everybody and learn all you can. And I still believe that today. Anything I would have done differently, I mean, it's probably the other side of that coin. Work will expand to fill the time you give it. So I worked a lot. I had, a lot of friends. I've got a great husband and a great family, but that whole, work-life balance, I've always considered it's just life. It's not balance. It's, work is your life. But I guess I would have backed off a tad if I was going to do it again.
Yeah. Much more with Langham President and CEO Cathy Langham as the Business and Beyond podcast returns. We'll talk about Cathy's early years, her move to Indianapolis, and the path to where she is today. That's when the Business and Beyond podcast returns. Stay with us.
At PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
And welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week is the president and CEO of Langham Logistics, Cathy Langham. And Cathy, we talked a bit in the first half of the podcast about the growth at Langham, your early years starting the company. Let's go back even earlier than that to growing up. Where did you did not, at least your earliest years, grow up in Indiana, right?
Right. I was born in Detroit and lived in Warren, Michigan till I was in 8th grade. And I was number 4 of 6 kids. So I have 3 older brothers and 2 younger sisters. My dad was from England and my mother from Ireland. And they moved to Detroit, had 6 kids in 7 years. And then my dad worked in automotive and he was transferred with Allison Transmission to Indianapolis. So that's how we got here.
So that's what brought you to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So what was the young Cathy Langham like in school? Was it sports, academics, arts, combination? What do you remember about those early years?
Oh gosh. It was probably a little of all that. I would say that, it's funny when I look back on my high school years, my most, memorable thing was I was diagnosed with cancer in my senior year in high school. That sort of took precedence over anything else. And so then it was the battle was on for getting through that and getting, I went to IU, had to quit IU, move back home, and then get back down there and get through college. And my parents were great. They paid for our first year. We're middle income family. And then after that, they helped us when they could, but we were on our own. So I worked all through college too.
I didn't know that about the cancer diagnosis at a young age. That obviously life-changing experience. As you think back on that, did that experience kind of help shape who you are today?
I think it did. I think for me, I don't worry about the little things. I feel blessed, and I've had a couple issues since then, but I feel blessed to be here. I feel blessed to have a chance to work, to build a business, to be in life sciences, and I'm probably abnormally positive and thankful every single day for anything that's going on. So, and I think a lot of that is probably having looked death in the eye or looked, a significant illness in the eye and get through it.
You mentioned IU. You went to IU. Did you think about going anywhere else, any other colleges, or was there always going to be an IU path for you?
It was always going to be IU. My two of my older brothers went to IU, so I really didn't know there was anything else but IU, and it really enjoyed my experience there.
Yeah. We talked about the development of the company, but I think it's also important to talk about with you the importance you put on community service, because you have been and continue to be very involved in community, whether it's the Indy Chamber or Indiana Chamber or any number of organizations. Where does that because that takes time, as you well know, it takes a lot of time. Where did that interest in community service come from?
Well, my mom was always involved in that. She was involved in nonprofit, and I just like to network with people. And even the very early days, I joined the Rotary Club, downtown Rotary. I think I was 22 years old, met somebody that convinced me to join the board of Meals on Wheels. And so I had a couple of stints on that board and gained a lot of experience about boards, about nonprofit, about leadership roles, and then continued then joined the chamber board and went through the chairs there and CICP and Economic Club. And I was on the IEDC board for 8 years. And you're right, it takes a lot of time, but it's a lot of fun too. And like with anything, you always get more than you give. You don't go into it with that attitude, but just opportunities that have come to me, like President Bush visiting my warehouse.
I remember that. Well, tell me about that, because I remember covering that and being there. That was a big deal.
That was a big deal. And the reason they found me was they went to the Indianapolis Chamber and said, do you have some, and really he wanted to talk about small business. And do you have some small businesses that, you can put on a short list because a high-ranking White House official would be visiting Indiana. And I was on the list because they knew who I was. And, I had been involved in a few things. And one thing led to another. They asked me if I wanted to be on this list. And then the next day, the White House called and again said, would you be open to a visit from a high-level White House official? And we said yes. And then they checked to make sure we paid taxes and things like that. But then the next day, they called back and said, if you'll have them a week from tomorrow, President Bush will be there. And, and it went from there. It still comes up once in a while. But then in Super Bowl, I was honored to be vice chair of that. And so opportunities come. And I would coach people, just say yes to some of this stuff. None of us have time.
Yeah, right.
It's just making it.
You talk about all various organizations and initiatives, events, all those types of things. Indianapolis, I think, is certainly over the last, my time here and beyond, has this great reputation for volunteerism and support of community, and so many examples you can point to. Are you concerned about the next, I'll call it the next generation, if you will, or that next iteration of leadership? I mean, again, Indianapolis, I think, is extraordinary in that regard. But I know I hear people talk about it. I tend to agree with it. Where's that next wave of folks going to come from? Is that a concern?
It is. And not just, we've got to look in the mirror and say, why, have we done everything we can to bring this next level of leaders around along with us? And I can't say that I have. But we need to continue to look at that. I think COVID impacted that too. People, they want to work from home. They don't want to get out. They don't want to go to chamber board meetings. And it's going to look different. It's going to look different. I'm not sure what we can do to impact that, but I'm all in if we can figure it out.
Well, let's look a little bit to the future. As you look at the future for Langham, where's the future? You mentioned the temperature controlled investments you're making. Is that kind of the next wave? I know you've been doing it for a while, but is that where things are at going forward?
Yeah, it's going to be around that. It's going to be, a future where innovation and compassion come together to help advance pharma, life sciences, through technology, through automation, through AI. I'm very interested and intrigued on all that. And it's, we will continue to listen to our customers because they know where they're going, and keeping our finger on the pulse of technology and going to conferences and listen to the market. So we'll continue to grow in this space and find the best people we can and build the best, family team that we can, and just keep plugging forward.
What are your thoughts on the Indiana economy overall, perhaps as it relates to the logistics sector? I mean, we see things like, from a strategic standpoint, the LEAP district, the LEAP Innovation District in Boone County, Lebanon, the massive investment by Eli Lilly and company there, and likely others as well, and creating these innovation hubs, if you will, around the state. Indiana has landed some really big deals in electric vehicle components and microelectronics, solar, all those kinds of areas. There's some momentum there. But overall, as you look at the outlook for Indiana competitively in the world today, how would you assess it?
I'm very bullish on Indiana. I think I think the timing is perfect with all the things you just mentioned. And, IU, our great universities, what we're doing with IU Indianapolis, the interest in technology and AI and life sciences from all the schools, along with everything Lily's doing in the LEAP district and all the ancillary companies that come with that, BioCrossroads, CICP, investing in a big way. Lilly Endowment, I almost feel like it's a perfect storm of timing to really get Indiana on the map. I was at a dinner meeting this week with a group, and I think one of our biggest challenges is marketing. We've got so much going on. Let's tell the story, and our own people have to aim higher and be more proud of what we're already doing here in the Midwest.
One more for you. I'd be interested in your take, and you mentioned it, the split at IUPUI, what has been IUPUI into IU and Purdue, Indianapolis. I, for one, think the impact of that potentially is enormous in what it can mean for the economy and producing more STEM and other those kinds of graduates in Indianapolis. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Both schools are all in on, continuing to grow and really make an urban campus environment, 2 campus environments down there that will really impact this state and this community. And we have a chance to shape all that. We've got great opportunities. We've got big problems in this community too, around mental health, homelessness, depression, stress, and that campus and those people and those professors, along with the great companies, we have an opportunity to fix all that. And it's right here in our backyard.
Well, Cathy Langham, as always, a real treat to catch up with you. Thank you for all you continue to do from a business standpoint. You're growing a great company, but also your community service and the impact, and you're a real role model as well. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast. We are a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download every episode and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.